We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost, the home for the college football sickos. With a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow this channel. Just hit that $ where you make your comments and I'll get to you super chats as quick as I possibly can. Welcome in on everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. It is Friday, September 12th. We are 1 day away from week 3. Well, week 3 already started. And there is a game tonight, the Hoosiers versus the Sycamores. But Saturday. We are 1 day away from Saturday football, week 3. We made our predictions. We made our picks. Remember? We already made them. We did it. We did the work. We analyzed all. We talked about these games for 3 days. 3 days. We talked about Colorado in Houston. We discussed Kansas State in Arizona. We evaluated Clemson and Georgia Tech, the Rambling Wreck. We looked over the backyard brawl. We analyzed Georgia and Tennessee. We picked apart USC and Purdue. We broke down, we schemed the disadvantages, the advantages, South Florida and Miami of Florida. We looked at the evil Badgers. We proselytized over the Alabama Crimson Tide. We poked, we prodded about Vanderbilt and South Carolina. We danced around the Bobcats and the Buckeyes. Arkansas and Ole Miss, oh, this was the most difficult game. The most difficult game on the slate. Arkansas and Ole Miss. Old Dominion, Virginia Tech, Florida, LSU, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Arizona State, Texas State, and of course, my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers versus California. We talked about it all. We did it all. We made our selections. But if you want to talk about it in the comments section, if you want to give a super chat, I will talk about it later on with a phone call. If you want to talk about this game or that game, the floor is yours. I want to talk about, once again, the Duke Blue Devils. Great. Why are you spending time talking about Duke once again? I think Duke is a great example. I think Duke is a great example of a school, a university that is trying to do all they can to eventually be included in the P2, in the Big Ten or the Southeastern Conference. Duke is a great example of what we are going to tie in an article from the Athletic. We are going to tie in that article talking about Duke. We're going to tie that in with, of course, what we've heard at Peek Around the Corner for months, that Duke is doing all they can. All they can. Anything that is in their control, and a lot of things are out of Duke Blue Devils' control, but what is in their control, they're doing all they can. We are going to tie that with the article that we're going to talk about today that came out yesterday, and, well, the discussion in and around the possibility of the Big Ten going to an unequal revenue sharing plan for their next media contract. We are going to tie all those three together. That is why I'm talking about the Duke Blue Devils today. No, Greg Pflugar is not reporting that Duke is going to end up in the SEC. No, Greg Pflugar is not reporting that the Duke Blue Devils are going to end up in the Big Ten, because that is what's going to be said about this show out there in the Tinderlands. But that's not what I'm saying today. What I am saying is the Duke Blue Devils are taking every possibility, every opportunity to try to get into the SEC or the Big Ten. It is not by accident. It is not by accident. Duke had 28,000 fans for the game against number 11 Illinois. Terrible fans. Why would the networks give them a second look? A lot of people agree with you, Tony. Some do not. But it is not by any accident that when Brett McMurphy, in his interview with Ari Wasserman and Andy Staples. It is not by accident that the Duke Blue Devils were listed as one of the Big Ten expansion candidates by Brett McMurphy. Not by accident. I happen to believe they're not one of the top candidates. They're probably not at the bottom. Brett McMurphy did not rank them. And Brett McMurphy did say that things could change in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Some of these schools are planning that things will change. That they're working towards the SEC and the Big Ten to rearrange their own internal rankings. But it is not by accident that the Duke Blue Devils were mentioned as one of the candidates. We have known that here at Peek Around the Corner. There was a door open to us months ago how aggressive Duke has been. We are going to go through an article today. Not all of it, just part of it. Just an example. We're talking about football, right? Tough Tony, Golden Gopher Tough Tony says Duke has 28,000 fans for a game. We are going to give an example today through this article that even though Duke has a very small fan base, and they might not get to the SEC, they might not get to the Big Ten because of that and other things. But regardless, Duke is doing all they can. Duke is not settling. Duke is going to shoot for the moon and sees what happens. They've already been doing it. So we are going to go through an article, and I'm going to, this is the one subject that I'm going to talk about today. Again, I'm going to tie in what we know about Duke's efforts here at Peek Around the Corner. We are going to tie that in with the article that I'm about to read you. And then we're going to tie those two together with the Big Ten possibly, maybe doing unequal revenue sharing plan for the next media contract, which would mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean the Big Ten becomes a little bit more unstable if it happens? Does it mean that suddenly, possibly, maybe, that if the Big Ten expands again, does the unequal revenue world, does that change somehow the candidates list? If a school is offering the Big Ten, if an institution is offering the Big Ten to say we will come in at much less than whoever else you bring in, we will come in as much less than the average Big Ten payout. If we come in less when it comes to your next media contract to possibly help grease the skids for a possible little bit more at the top for Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, does that change the potential candidates rankings list of the Big Ten? Does that world, if the Big Ten walks into it, does that world change the priority list? Does that world, if it happens, does that world give a little bit more power to some schools that are not going to be getting the top tier money of the Big Ten. In other words, they might have a bigger voice in who they want to bring in. Some universities that might bring in other value, like massive research. Before I do a roll call, before I get to a very generous super chat by Christopher Hooter. You know, when the Buckeyes are sitting there, I'm just going to let everybody know this. I'm going to use Ohio State as an example. I could use Penn State. I could use Michigan. But I'm going to go ahead and use Ohio State. When Ohio State is sitting there and they're considering how valuable they are to the conference, and they are. When they're sitting there considering what type of leaders they are for the Big Ten, what type of stewards they are for the Big Ten, and they have been fantastic. But you know, part of that is the Buckeyes are, part of that reasoning, part of that analysis is, you know what? As a university, it's good for us that John Hopkins came in as an affiliate member. As a university, the Ohio State, it's really good for us that Northwestern is our conference mates. Because the president of Ohio State, Ted Carter, you know that he knows. I hope you don't. If you do not know, you're going to know it now. He knows what type of money Northwestern brings into Ohio State. That's the reality. That's the reality. So, we shall see. I am very curious about what is about to happen in the Big Ten. Is it going to be a slow implosion? Or is it going to be a well-coordinated, they've already socialized this, they've already know what they're kind of going to do, but yet there's going to be a give and a take. There is already a give and a take in the Big Ten. There is already a give and a take in the SEC. In the Big Ten, for example, all these schools basically get the same amount of media money, right? But there are already some schools that don't have to do the home Friday night games. They don't have to do the nighttime, middle, late November games. The other schools have to do that. The middle schools, the lower branded schools, they pick up the slack, which brings more value to the media package. Everybody doing their part, right? Everybody doing their part. This unequal revenue sharing, if it happens, and I kind of think it will, and I've been saying this for at least 18 months, because we've been hearing that this has been socialized for quite a long time. But does that unequal revenue sharing world, does that bring in an opportunity, more of an opportunity for P2 inclusion for, let's say, a Duke, a Georgia Tech? Does it also bring a possibility that maybe if there is a top tier sweetener that can be offered to Notre Dame, does that change the equation? Lot to think about, but we are going to take Duke's perspective on this. Today we are going to be taking Duke's perspective on this. Thank you everybody for joining us. I do appreciate it. Once again, Friday, September 12th, college football peek around the corner live show. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends. We got a super chat. Super chat. Christopher Hooter. Ohio State throws out unequal revenue share. Wow. I gather all is not sweetness and light in the Big Ten. What's the rest of the story, Greg? I don't think Ohio State just threw out this story. This story has been in the hopper for quite a while. They've been socializing this for quite a while. It was an interview with the president. I don't think... And again, the president made it clear that Ohio State's not going anywhere. It's not like the Buckeyes and Nittany Lions and the Wolverines are going to use leverage like, oh, we're going to exit the conference if we don't get more money. I think if it happens, and I would put the chances of it happening a little bit more than not happening right now on September 12th, from what I've heard. If this happens, I think there's going to be, I don't think it's going to follow the ACC recipe. I think it's basically going to be, you deserve this. We're not going to micromanage every metric when it comes to viewership numbers because that gets programs fighting over certain TV slots. And I think this might be just a, yes, we understand. We grant you this top tier Big Ten revenue money because you have been the top tier. You've been great stewards of our conference. I don't think it's going to mirror what the ACC does. Now, again, though, I could be wrong, Christopher Hooter. It could lead to jealousy. It could lead to implosion. It could lead to... I don't think it will. But we'll see. Thank you, Christopher Hooter, for the $5 holla. I do appreciate it so very much. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you for your generosity once again. Skaven, yes. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to the Cornhusker as they get ready to win their third game of the season coming up tomorrow, correct? Am I right? They play tomorrow, right? Am I wrong on that? Larry Andrick, I will keep my word on the West Virginia-Pittsburgh game, and here is 5 members, but you will probably not need to worry about singing Country Roads. If West Virginia wins, Mr. Larry Andrick, thank you once again, by the way, for joining us. Larry, if West Virginia defeats the Pittsburgh Panthers tomorrow in the backyard brawl, I will sing Country Roads, man. I will definitely sing Country Roads. Now, I've sang it a couple times in the history of this program. One time it went okay. The other time it went all pear-shaped. So I can't promise anything, Larry. As I get older and older and older, it gets more and more difficult for me. But I'll do the best I can. Thank you, Larry. I will sing Country Roads if the Mountaineers upset the Panthers. And I will sing on Wisconsin if the Badgers stay within 20.5 points. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Appreciate it. Go Buckeye. Keep within 3 touchdowns. PATC community. Please keep your pets away from the phone or computer when Greg sings on Wisconsin. Wow, that's a shot. Thank you so much. You are a member for the 21 months. 21 months. Holy smokes. Unbelievable. Thank you, sir. You are knighted Cloak and Dagger once again. Cloak and Dagger once again. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Appreciate it. Lego Gators is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Chris G, thanks for coming on in. Georgia Bulldogs, Don Scruggs. Georgia, Tennessee. We are going to be doing a live watch party show tomorrow, starting at, I believe, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 2 o'clock Central Time, 1 o'clock Mountain Time. noon Pacific time. Georgia and Tennessee, join us for the watch party. The Volunteers and the Bulldogs. Don Scruggs, Wendy Scruggs. We are going to be watching over the Georgia Bulldogs. Give the rock. Give the rock to Nate Frazier. Give the ball to Frazier. Let him go. Let him play. Am I missing? I got to be missing something. Don, you can explain it to me tomorrow. I got to be missing something. Why isn't Nate Frazier, why isn't he being like the key figure for the running game? I don't get it. I don't get it. What? It's again, every time I do a live show, I don't get something. And you guys got to sit me down and explain it to me. Charlie Atwood is in the house. Outlaw Skis, go Buckeyes. Bruce Harris, it's freezing, Greg. Oh, is it now? I went 9-5 last week, Bruce Harris. I went 9-5 last week. I was Greg the Gold. Sunday Aftermath show. I wear all the gold, baby. I'm going 10-6 at the worst. 10-6 is my floor, not my ceiling for week 3. No. No Greg the Freezing, baby. No Greg the Cooler. It's all Greg the Gold. Week 3. Let's go. Let's go. Robert Trunnell's in the house. Hell State, we are present. Thank you, Robert Trunnell. I appreciate you coming on in. Mississippi State. Wow. Upset Arizona State last week. PA No Fan is in the house. What's the view? What's the Minnesota view of those Packers? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's at some point during the season, we're going to be looking down. We're going to be looking at the standings, and the Vikings are going to have to look down at the Packers. Oh, the Packers might be ahead of the Bears and the Lions, but we're going to be the view is we're going to be looking down on the Packers. I hope that's what the question, I hope that's what you meant, because that is the answer. Greetings and salutations, Opie Cat. Thanks for coming on in. Edward the Auburn Tiger. Unidentified Terrestrial Flugarians. Good afternoon, UTFs. Thank you, Vox, for coming on in. Amazing Blue. Thank you for coming on in. Grateful Trojan. I'm with the Duke ad. Sells basketball tickets. Rico is in the house. Rico, thanks for coming on in. Jose. Grab Miami, Georgia Tech dude. Charles Kidd. The unequal revenue argument is one of the stupidest I've heard, and a lot of people agree with you, Charles Kidd. A lot of people agree with you. Who else is here? Neil Sandifer. What's up? MBM. Why add teams that don't move the needle? Split would be their payout with current members. More money. There's different ways that a school adds money to the pot. Just different ways. Now, it may not work. It may not work with the Duke. But again, if Duke is coming in at a smaller rate, right? I mean, we'll see. I mean, if there's going to be unequal revenue sharing, then a team can add value to the conference because they're not getting paid full freight. Possibly, maybe. Mary Crocker Road, thanks for coming on in. Love how everyone criticized Florida State over unequal revenue sharing. Maurice Simmons, go hello everyone. Gold Nose, son of Sarah. Duke better have a Steve Spurrier throwing the Hail Mary. Why does Flugard keep choosing musical violence? The Walking Geek is in the house. Ohio State is ranked the 15th best public school in the... Okay. Again, not taking a shot at Ohio State. Oh, boy. What an odd comment. Walking Geek. Ohio State is a massive university, great research university. But, Northwestern is a bigger research university. Ohio State, Northwestern does help the value of the Big Ten research. Just an example. Johns Hopkins, the Big Ten schools are collaborating more with Johns Hopkins than ever before. Google it. Look it up. As great as the Buckeyes are, Johns Hopkins, ladies and gentlemen, that was not a shot at the Buckeyes. Not a shot at the Buckeyes. Just relax. Just relax. The architect is in the house. Yogi Buck is here. As a Florida State fan, don't think the Big Ten needs unequal revenue sharing. When you already make the most, what's the point? Dale Donuts is in the house. I am Greg the Gold. Vox, I am Greg the Gold. Greg, you're crazy. The pack look good. Fine, they can look good. You asked me my view. My view is I'm going to be looking down. I'm going to be looking down at them. Hi, Packers. Hi. That's my view of the Packers. They can be a wild card team. I got no problem with that. They can be a wild card team. Got it. No problem, Walking Geek. No problem. The Buckeyes got a great unit. I'm just trying to explain. Let me put it this way. Presidents don't just look at the bottom line when it comes to their athletic department. They're looking at the bottom line and their whole university, which is a much bigger budget. And they're looking at how this money is coming in. A whole lot of money is coming in, right? And they wanna be able to bid for better faculty, better research. They want more faculty. They want to build this out. They want to build that out. And we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And an association with Northwestern, the Buckeyes know how valuable that is. I'm just trying to say, the Buckeyes do not really care that Northwestern Wildcat football averages 340,000 views. They just don't give a rip. I know football fans do. But the University of Ohio State does not. They don't care. The President Carter don't care. Look, President Carter, Ted Carter, when he was the president of Nebraska, you saw, we did live shows on it. We did like 3 of them. He wrote emails. He had meetings. He had questions and answers, with faculty and students. And he was telling everybody in those emails, especially, he was telling everybody, look, Nebraska, we got to get our act straight. We got to increase our research. We're going to be left behind and we may get kicked out of the Big Ten. I don't think they're ever going to get kicked out of the Big Ten. But Ted Carter was saying, we are way behind. The president, Ted Carter, is not going, oh, Nebraska, we have so much more viewership than Northwestern. It's going to be Northwestern that's going to get kicked out. Northwestern's not getting kicked out. Nebraska's not getting kicked out. My point is, there is so much more to it than just one metric. That's my point. And if the athletic conference, the Big Ten Athletic Conference, does go to unequal revenue sharing, well, then a school may just possibly be able to join the conference at a much lower rate. And the argument that this team doesn't bring enough value, well, maybe that athletic program does bring enough value because you're not paying them anywhere close to full freight on the media money, but they're bringing in a whole lot of possibilities and future earnings when it comes to research. That's all I'm saying. Great for Trojan. Every Big Ten adds value to the conference in their own way, with the exception of UCLA. Tony and Walking Geek, just relax, guy. Just relax. Just relax. Tony, tough Tony, you only can insult me. Keep your insults to me. There are only 5 brands in the Big Ten. There will never be unequal revenue sharing unless there's a real threat. Well, there's way... are you saying there's only 5 like big brands in the Big Ten? Because I got to tell you, every Big Ten university is a brand. I mean, did you see the report about how much? Well, did you see the article? No, I'm sure none of you have, but the University of Minnesota hockey program with their new agreement when it comes to their merchandise, that's a brand. Bobby Hansen, I do not know where Western Civic is. Only 5 big brands that make money for the TV contract. I'm going to have to disagree. Respectfully. Again, is there 4 or 5 brands that really bring the viewership numbers? Yes. I think others do as well, but some of them are doormat right now. Some of them are being quiet. But guys, where are the Buckeyes and the Lions in Michigan? Where are they playing their games? They're playing in front of massive, huge markets that have spending power, that the national advertisers love. These universities with huge alumni bases. It's called the blend. It's called big brands, yes. With big markets, yes. And that's the one thing I think. So if Florida State would join the Big Ten, if Florida State was, let's just say it's Florida State and Miami. I think one of the things that would jump out to the Florida State fan base right away is first the travel, right? It's a big conference. The other is the markets. Look at the markets compared to the ACC markets. And the bigger markets at least have a pulse, unlike, I won't get into it. But yeah, it's a blend. It's a blend. What are you talking about, Grateful Trojan? The Gophers play the California Golden Bears. Yeah, markets well, your New York and your Boston, really? San Francisco? In Atlanta, I mean, Georgia Tech. But Atlanta is a big market that has great football, but it's not really looking towards the ACC. San Francisco, it's a big market, but terrible for college football. Okay. All right. I guess it's only because the Big Ten has 3 or 4 brands that they make all this money. Okay, all right. Let's get into the article here. I want to get to this article. Duke is a basketball school. Stuart Mandel, The Athletic. So why is it paying a transfer quarterback top tier money? Reports last December of Duke awarding a 2-year, $8 million NIL deal to transfer quarterback elicited 2 obvious reactions. Number 1, Duke has that kind of money? And number 2, is it giving it to a football player? We have aspirations to play at the highest level possible. And that's counter maybe to what people have always thought of with Duke football, says Greg Pritchard, a former Duke defensive lineman and co-founder of the football program's NIL collective. So it was very purposeful for us to go after the best quarterback that we could possibly get. Once Tulane's Darren Mensah entered the transfer portal, Duke staff evaluated him and rated Mensah as significantly higher than any other quarterback that was available, said its chief football strategy officer, and I cannot pronounce the name, I apologize. So Pritchard quickly mobilized donors and got a deal done within days. But landing the prize quarterback is one thing, as the chief football strategy officer said last week. A big thing about Duke donors is they want to see a return on investment. Those donors likely had mixed reactions last weekend when Mensah, in a third-year sophomore, faced his first big test against number 11 Illinois. He was an impressive 23 of 34 for 334 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he also had 3 turnovers. His team had 5 on the day. The Blue Devils hung in there for 3 quarters before losing 45-19 at home. Darian played very well, but he's a developing player that's going to learn some lessons on ball security today, head coach Manny Diaz said afterwards. He showed with our offense today against a really, really good defense that we've got some really dangerous weapons. 2 sources involved with Mensah recruitment said that Auburn had interest before landing Oklahoma's Jackson Arnold. One of those sources and another source with knowledge of Mensah recruitment said UCLA pursued him as well. But the options thinned once Reisenfield made it known the ambitious price tag he was seeking for his client. Duke was undeterred. Diaz and the officer were told that be receiving the first of 3 visits by Mensah and prepared a presentation highlighting both how he fit into their offense and their plan to surround him with new weapons. At Tulane, Mensah had led a run-oriented offense with a lot of play action passing, whereas Diaz and Brewer's scheme is heavier on run-pass options, progressions, in vertical passing. The fact they pushed the ball vertically down the field was a big one for me, said Mensah. In this offense, the quarterback has all the control. That's something that I really wanted. He promptly committed to Duke without taking other visits. Mensah picking Duke continued an NIL era trend of high-profile recruits and transfers choosing less obvious programs. Diaz cites an example last year's top 2 Heisman finishers, Travis Hunter, the number 1 player in the class of 2022, became the number 2 NFL draft pick after playing for Jackson State in Colorado. Ashton Genty turned down lucrative offers from major programs to remain at Boise State for his last season and became the number 6 pick. The news on December 11th that Duke had landed the touted quarterback came as a surprise to many. A couple of weeks later came reports of the 2-year, $8 million figure that shocked the sport. Landing Mensah, PATC money shot number 1. Lanning Mensah served notice that Duke is no longer content to be known as a basketball school. Obviously, Duke football is not as big as basketball, Mensah said last week, but I think I'm here to change it. There is more to the article, and I will provide a link in the description box, but it's Stuart Mandel, The Athletic, from yesterday morning. He published it. So Duke, the boosters, put a whole lot of money into Darren Mensah. They got him. Now they're looking for a return of investment, per the article. Duke is not going to sit there and decide that they're not going to go for it. They know the next wave is coming up. They know the next wave of disruption is coming up. They know the next wave of realignment is coming up. They know the next wave of P2 expansion is coming up. And while they're never, ever going to be able to fill a football stadium with 40,000 people or 35,000 people, possible, maybe someday they will. That is not going to be what they're going to sell themselves as. They're not selling the SEC or the Big Ten as we can be just like you. No, that's not what they're doing. What they're showing right now, they're doing all that they can control. A small private university basketball brand, they're not going to pack it in the football. They're not going to give you that valuable. They're not going to give you that value. But what they're trying to show you is, we got the money. We're always going to have the money. And we can spend, even though we're going to not get full freight probably in the Big Ten or possibly even the Southeastern Conference. But we are going to spend the money. Look what we just did. We got Darren Mensah. It wasn't just about this football team. Duke did not get Mensah just for this season and next season. They got Darren Mensah because they were showing everybody, we will spend the money. We are going to get some talent here. We are going to keep some talent here. So we are going to have some value to wherever we go. I know there's talk out there. That Duke may, maybe just fine joining some sort of reimagined ACC private institution conference. That's what they're really looking at. That's what they're really going for. That's what they're... No. I'm going to try to be kind here. That is not even close to reality. Duke is going for it. I don't know if they're going to be able to get there. In my prediction of April 9th, I don't have them getting there. Maybe that would change. Maybe I'll do a report on this 6 months from now and it will change. But right now, I don't have them getting there. But they're doing everything they possibly can to get there. It is no accident that Brett McMurphy named them as one of the Big Ten candidates. They might be at the bottom of the list. They might be in the middle of the list. But they are one of the candidates. Brett McMurphy told everybody that these 13 universities, AAU universities, and that list could change. Florida State could be added because they're AAU or whatever. I mean, Duke is definitely on the candidates list. Brett McMurphy told you that. And we've been telling you for months. Because there are things that the door has been opened to us for Duke. We know, we were told that they've had big conversations. We reported to you that months ago. They're willing to come in and basically say, we'll take care of ourselves. They're going to be able to pay their bills. Duke's not going to have any problem paying their bills. They're not going to need a loan. Now, the Big Ten, I would assume, I'm going to be careful here because there are things we were told that I'm a little bit embargoed on, but I'm assuming that the Big Ten would say, look, you're going to have to improve your football stadium. You're going to have to improve the football experience. You're going to have to do more to get certain sponsorships in, and all that stuff. But Duke research, moving it from the Ivy library into the Big Ten, that would be something that a lot of presidents would be very interested in. Duke's basketball brand, Duke's basketball being a part of the Big Ten network. You remember the Big Ten network is going like gangbusters. It's going like gangbusters. It's making money. It's why the Big Ten network payouts is why the Big Ten schools, every time you see how much they each make, is a little bit higher than the previous projection, because the Big Ten network, that third tier media money, keeps ellipsing, keeps going a little bit past the latest projections because the network's making more and more money. Imagine putting 4 or 5 or 6 Duke Blue Devil basketball games on the Big Ten network out of their, how many they play. Not necessarily all home games. I'm seeing some away games. And then, of course, you got first tier, which is more valuable, obviously, on CBS, Fox. And what if Duke says, what if the Big Ten decides to do this unequal revenue sharing world, and Duke lowballs everybody else and says, we come in at this amount of money? Does Duke move up on the candidates list? I don't know. I don't have the answers. Not today, I don't. But we know here at Peek Around the Corner, without a shadow of a doubt, that Duke is having a Hail Mary front court press. They're sending everybody. And someday, we are going to get more than just the Brett McMurphy report that Duke is on the candidates list. Someday, we're going to get stories about what Duke has been doing behind the scenes and other schools behind the scenes. Nothing is done, nothing is settled, nothing is completed, but there is a whole lot of positioning going on. You remember when we brought, when the Virginia Tech Money Perch talked to us? And I read some of the communications between himself and one of the BTM associates, and The Virginia Tech money perch said that a Virginia official thought that Duke slid in, that they've successfully slid in as a partner for North Carolina to go to the Southeastern Conference. And then we got the okay to talk to this Virginia official, and he repeated what the Virginia Tech money perch told us. I don't agree with it. I mean, I don't think he's quite accurate. I could be wrong. The Virginia official could be correct. But that is how much the Duke aggression is real. And they're not the only one that are being aggressive. Of course they're not. But it's real. If you have an opportunity, if you have a shot somehow, some way to get to the Southeastern Conference or the Big Ten, you are going to take your shot and you're going to figure out what is your best opportunity. Where is our miracle shot? How can we get this done? And for Duke, I believe we have lots of reasons to believe that the Big Ten would accept it, that they would lowball everybody else. Is that enough of the Big Ten presidents to take them in? How would Fox feel about a Duke edition? Maybe helps with the Big Ten network. Doesn't really help with the football tier 1, which is the most valuable part of the total media contract. Big Ten looking to go more international. Does Duke help out with that? Possibly. Duke is a huge research university. Definitely would add on a unique research to the Big Ten. But Duke does not have a Big Ten, does not have an alumni, doesn't have the student. It in some ways just quite isn't a Big Ten university. In some ways, a Florida State is more of a Big Ten university. I've also talked to you about how, and I was pretty blunt with this. I was pretty blunt about this. I think it was live show on Wednesday. Or I might have been blunt about this on Tuesday. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Nothing is settled, nothing is done, and there's a whole lot of different metrics, a whole lot of different politics, a whole lot of different relationships that are going to determine what exactly happens. There is way too many variables. That's why I said my prediction on April 9th only had a 1% chance of being accurate, because it was not a report. It was just a prediction. There's a lot of things that are affecting everything here. Relationships is a massive one. If there's anything that Miami and Clemson and Florida State and Duke and Georgia Tech and Stanford and California and Utah and Arizona State and Colorado and Kansas, the biggest thing they're all working on right now is relationship building within the Big Ten. And for some of them within the SEC. Because you actually have to have a human vote for you in those rooms. You have to have a human, a president, say, yes, I feel comfortable, I feel good, this is going to help our institution, this is going to help our conference, we are going to vote yes for this school. There is nothing more than relationships. They're working on a whole lot of things. Florida State is working on this hospital. Florida State is working on this research. So is Clemson. Duke is doing this and that. Georgia Tech is making their voice known. They're all working it. Utah has been working it. Kansas has been working it. But what they're working on the most is relationships. But I think that the unequal revenue sharing part of this, I think, throws in a whole different element to what could happen. It increases the possibilities. If that is what the Big Ten decides to do. Because no longer, we all sit here and we go, well, we'll just talk about the Big Ten for now, because the SEC hasn't really opened up publicly about their possibility of unequal revenue sharing, although SEC commentators they've talked about it. ESPN writers have talked about it. They've said that the SEC may have to go down this road as well. Whatever. We'll just focus on the Big Ten for now. But the old adage, the old saying, the old argument of the Big Ten can't possibly add this school because it doesn't bring in $85 million value of the athletic conference, or yearly. It doesn't bring. Well, what if they're willing to come in at half rate? Then it changes everything. It changes the equation. Don Scruggs, Duke has never gotten a dime from the Scruggs family. Interesting. Minnesota scored so many TDs last week they ran out of fireworks. Maybe borrow some from Iowa. They should have extra. Yeah, that was crazy. They had to put that up on the scoreboard that they ran out of fireworks. They were apologizing to the 15,000 people that remained at the end of that game. That game was so bad that the Gophers played Northwestern State because some school could no longer play that game. They bailed on us, and then we tried to find a replacement. I don't remember the school's name. I don't remember what school that was. But I would say that Northwestern State is the worst team I've ever seen. And we knew that going into the game. It was terrible. So we got a breaking news here. Strange situation that followed the Syracuse UConn as one of the ACC's longest tenured and well-respected refs abruptly quit, according to our sources, out of frustration over the league's heavy-handed approach on replay situation. breaking news of this afternoon. Gary Patterson, who served as the head referee for Saturday's matchup between the Huskies and the Orange, has worked as an official with the ACC since 2002, abruptly terminated his contract with the conference after the game. The sequence that reportedly led to Patterson's departure began with 1:02 remaining in the half and UConn leading 14-3. Syracuse opened a drive at the Huskies' 25-yard line, and on first down, quarterback Steve Angeli dropped back to pass. His arm was hit as he threw, and the ball went forward about 8 yards, landing on the turf. The officials immediately ruled the pass incomplete. Syracuse then snapped the ball again with 58 seconds left on the clock, though about 25 seconds of real time passed between plays. The second down throw was nearly intercepted before two UConn players collided and the pass felt incomplete, bringing up a 3rd and 10 with 53 seconds to go. A flag was thrown after the play, however, and Patterson could be seen talking on his headset to the ACC's command center for nearly 90 seconds before announcing that replay had buzzed in prior to the previous play. Sources have reviewed numerous camera angles of the sequence, said there was no physical indication by any official on the field that they had been buzzed by the replay booth before the second down snap. An ACC spokesperson said the officials were buzzed to initiate the review, but the timing was not ideal for it to be a seamless replay. I don't know, guys. But anyways, we got another big-time official, experienced official, has left the ACC. And the ACC are saying, well, it's not going to affect us. We got a replacement in hand. Tom DeBay, interesting. Living here in Connecticut, UConn has complained, rightly so, about ACC officiating for the past several years. Mora has been very outspoken about it. Does Rutgers deserve as much as Penn State? Does the Carolina Panthers deserve as much as the Dallas Cowboys in media money? The NFL shares their media money equally. The NBA shares their media money equally. Now, there is a wide discrepancy in how much money the Dallas Cowboys make over the Carolina Panthers because of ticket sales and sponsorship. But when it comes to the media money, the national media money, they all make the same. And why is that? Because they want to make sure that their product, which is competition, is at its very peak. The Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten for years have told everybody who's listened, we're going to pay everybody the same amount of money because it ensures the best competition for the conference. Penn State makes way more money than Rutgers. Right? They do. Look at their revenues. Look at the athletic department revenue. Look at their ticket sales. Look at their everything sales, merchandise. But the media money is the same because it's a way to ensure competition. Greg Sankey has come out, and I think it was about a year ago, and he came out and said, I can't speak for everybody, but as the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, I do not favor going to unequal revenue sharing. He said something to that effect. Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines. Opening up the phone lines. See if anybody gives us a call. 763-260-1333. This is this live show is not going to go as long as normally our live shows go. We are getting ready for a big college football weekend. We are going to be doing the watch party of Georgia, Tennessee. We're also going to be possibly going on later in the evening to do an update on all the games that are going on. And then there's the Golden Gophers playing at 9:30 Central Time, 10:30 Eastern Time. But the watch party is Georgia and Tennessee. And then we're going to be doing a Sunday aftermath show. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and get yourself notified of when we come on. Chris Kenny, thanks for calling. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
I'm doing good, sir.
Well, I'm just hoping for tomorrow that Northwestern keeps it closer with Oregon than Oklahoma State did. If we don't lose by 60 plus, if we don't lose by 60 points, I'm calling it a win. But
yeah,
I think we might even be able to keep it in the number if we hold the ball and kind of play ugly, which was always Pat Fitzgerald's strategy when we played a much better team.
Yeah.
We lose by three touchdowns instead of 5, and everybody goes home happy. So we'll see what happens. No, I've been wanting to call in. I haven't been able to, but I've been listening to the shows. I think this point on the revenue sharing is interesting. I read the article rather before I listened to the show, because when I saw the title, look, there's going to be some wild redistribution and revenue sharing. It's coming out of Northwestern's pocket. So I thought, oh boy, here it comes. And I read the article, and I think that there are a lot of people who probably are reading a lot into that, and sort of there's a lot of wishful thinking, frankly, from those on the outside. But I read his article. I read his comments to be a lot milder than maybe the headline suggested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First of all, he's coming from Nebraska, and Nebraska, like Maryland and like Rutgers, and certainly like Oregon and Washington, had to come in at a discount to pay for their equity stake in the Big Ten network, and USC and UCLA didn't. And so I don't think it's entirely unreasonable to think that he's laying down a marker that UCLA and USC are the exception, they're not the rule, and that new members that come in are going to get less, just as Nebraska did and all the other guys did. So I think that's kind of one thing that I potentially took away from it. I think your comment about maybe, the 3 biggest programs get a bonus of some kind. I mean, that could be part of it too.
Yeah.
But the other point that I can think leads into this Duke stuff, which I think is very interesting, and kind of, it's where I sort of think it's going. I could be totally wrong. But I think there were a few shows ago where you talked about, these leagues are going to get bigger. There's a reason that they're going to get bigger. You laid out all the conventional reasons about demographics and growing internationally and on and on and on and on. But, you also mentioned the Super League and sort of the political dynamic that's going on there. And if I understood you correctly, it was in some ways to kind of build out their political, the bigger they get, the more political cover they can take.
Yeah.
As Cody Campbell and these other guys on the Hill start trying to push for something that would lead to Super League. I think that's really insightful. I've been meaning to say it. I thought it was like a comment that nobody's really made before. But I would take it a step further and say, it could be, it's not just a political question, but it's also sort of a competitive question, right? Petitti and Sankey both have said repeatedly, there's nothing the Super League is offering that they can't do themselves. And so why not look out into the market and say, all right, well, what would cripple a Super League? Well, let's take like those 4, 8, 12 brands, whatever it is, among, between the two of us, and build out our own Super League, and we continue to be a Super League. They've said themselves they're 2 super conferences. If they both go up to 24, which is what I've kind of thought is the right number, I know others say 20, but I think 24 is the right number for a couple of reasons. Number one is if you're a 48-team conglomerate, then there is no Super League because there just aren't enough good properties left over. I mean, some good ones will be left out because there's just not enough seats at the table for everyone. But there will be enough that won't be on the market anymore that I don't really think you can build a Super League. And one of the 2 proposals has already died, right? Like the Smash Capital one's the only one alive, but the first one is already withered. So if you were to take these kinds of steps to grow and get bigger, it seems to me Smash Capital really doesn't have anything to work with if the best ACC schools and a handful of really good Big 12 schools in Notre Dame are off the board. So I view it in that way. I think your Super League comment is well taken, but I view it in that way. It's more of a competitive edge than just a political one. But I think they maybe are 2 sides of the same coin. And the point about revenue sharing sort of helps to make that make sense because you're right. Going from 18 to 24 or 16 to 24 is a big leap, and it might be a lot to ask the networks who have been used to paying for these types of programs, many of them at a much lower rate, to all of a sudden double it for that large a number of schools. So if you start in with a lower number that's still greater than whatever they would be getting in the ACC or the Big 12, it locks them into the Big Power 2. I think all of them take that deal, even Florida State, Clemson. I guarantee you would take that deal if they could come in even on something of a discount, just like Oregon and Washington did. Hasn't hurt Oregon at all. And that way you're then setting yourself up for the next media deal, not the 2031, but the one after that, where you can go to market, and then you really are a Super League. And so if all these, and this is kind of what I find always what's kind of amusing with all the Super League fanboys, is like on the one hand, they're all doom and gloom about the media market, and ESPN and Fox are never going to want to pay $100 million for Northwestern. They're never going to want to pay that for Vanderbilt and Mississippi. So, no. But then at the same time, somehow it's like 72 teams or 80 teams or whatever the number is, all go to market together, then everybody's going to make more money than they're making now, and it's this wonderful kumbaya moment. Like, which is it? Is it scarcity or is it abundance? Like, nobody can seem to make up their mind, and it only really depends on the position they're trying to advance, which one of those tacks they take. I think if you get to a 48-team Super League, you can appease a lot of these political things, and that's why I think Virginia Tech and North Carolina State, some of these other schools are not out of it, because maybe that's their ticket to getting into the Power 2. It's a larger, sort of more politically palatable grouping of schools. But they come in at a discount in the short term, and then they go to market the next time around. Who the hell knows what the world is going to look like, right? Paramount might be buying Warner Brothers. Like, the media landscape can be totally different in 10 years, but you're coming to market basically as the Super League. And then we get to prove whether the thesis is correct. If the 48 biggest programs in the 2 biggest leagues have all their media rights together and they all come on the market together, then do they get the really big number and everybody's happy? I mean, I tend to think that that's a possibility, because you're not just selling North Carolina State and Virginia Tech or Kansas and Stanford and Duke. You're selling it with Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and Michigan, and nobody is going to walk away from that combined content any more than anyone would walk away from the NFL, just because they got to pay for the Panthers and Jaguars, along with the Packers and the Steelers and the Cowboys. So that's I think the comments you made over these last couple episodes are interesting. I think this Duke thing is interesting. I think it's why there are a lot of schools that don't check all the boxes in the very conventional sense, like the spreadsheet dorks who get ratings and attendance and all that. It kind of explains all that and fleshes it out. It seems like that's what people who really know what they're talking about, like Brett McMurphy, are trying to tell people if only they would listen. And so, again, I've said this all along, and I still think it's, who knows, I could be wrong, but I think it's the way it's going to go, is these leagues are going to get bigger. They're going to get bigger with schools that don't always leap to mind as the ones people would want if we were just doing this, in a video game. and that the longer term play really is a large, AFL, NFL sort of arrangement that the Big Ten and SEC have moving forward into whatever the next media landscape is. So I think a lot of things you're saying line up with that. I think a lot of what we're hearing lines up with that, and it's just, only time will tell.
Got it, man. A beautiful call. I do apologize. I guess the volume was a little off. I didn't do any test. I haven't done any testing for a couple of days, and sure enough, we got volume problems right now. So some people had a hard time hearing what you were saying. Some people could. So, but I appreciate the phone.
The people who couldn't hear it are frankly better off.
No, it's a beautiful call.
Let's just get on with our week. On with our weekend.
Beautiful call. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to shut the phone off. It's something that I'm not able to fix during a live show. And I don't know, when I turn everything off and turn everything back on, the phones are going to work. That's just how it is. It's like once out of every 15 live shows that I do, this happens. And I don't know why it happens. Because I don't change any settings. So why does it happen? I don't know. No idea. Anyway, so I do apologize to Kenny. I apologize to the PATC family for that. I will have it working tomorrow. We are going to be doing a watch party tomorrow. Georgia versus Tennessee, starting at what time? What time is it? 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central. I believe that is when we're going to start. 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central. So please all join us for Georgia and Tennessee. And of course, we're going to be keeping track of all the other games that are going on. We're going to be watching them, hooping and hollering. Some of us are going to be crying. So please join us. Put the comments down in real time. I do appreciate it. If you join us tomorrow, it's going to be a lot of fun. Super chat, Mr. Hoosier, Ricky Tungate. $5 holla, Ricky Tungate. Appreciate it. Appreciate the super chat. Just join, going back to the beginning. Appreciate it coming on in. You've got a football game tonight, don't you? Against the Sycamores. Thank you, Maury Simmons. Yeah, we're going to shut it down. It was just going to be a small little live show today as we get ready for tomorrow. So join us tomorrow. Aftermath show on Sunday. We cover everything that happened in college football on Saturday. So please join us. It's going to be a great weekend of college football. I can't wait. Tonight's games, Saturday games, Georgia and Tennessee. We've gone over all the games. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Of course, my beloved Gophers against the California Bears. Florida, LSU. Arkansas, Ole Miss. The Buckeyes in Ohio. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. The Badgers versus Bama. So join us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about it all, covering it all. So again, until next time, which is tomorrow. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much. And as always, God, family, Golden Gophers.